We had some major logistical issues getting over here. Okay, we're learning brachas. Brachas. Sukkah. Daf base on the base. We're about 20 lines from the bottom. We saw the gemorah says command like echad, that. A quick recap. So you have to build the sukkah. The Mishnah says 20 up till a maximum height of 20 feet. Sukkah gvelamal me'esamama psula. And Rabbi Yehuda says it's fine. So the question is, why does it have to be only 20 feet? So we saw three-way machlaikas so far. We're going to see in Taisus, it looks like there's a fourth opinion over here. The three opinions are that either you have to remember you're sitting in a sukkah, that we should remember that Ani Akava, we came out of Egypt, we went through the desert, good morning, we went through the desert for 40 years, and we have to remember Ani Akava, that you got to sit in a sukkah to remember Ani Akava. The other opinion is that you have to be sitting in the cell. You got the schach on top, has to actually be protecting you from the sun. And if it's above 20 feet high, the sun's coming from the side, you're only sitting in the, the wall is what's protecting you from the sun, because even midday in Israel, the sun's at a 55-degree angle north. So you're not going to, so the schach is only protecting the top little triangle, basically. And 20 feet below it, you're not sitting in the shadow from the schach. The third opinion was you have to build, the sukkah has to be a size that could be temporary. And anything above 20 feet, you have to make permanent. In order for it to be that high, it's got to be strong enough that it can basically be a permanent structure. You could build something small and it's temporary. As soon as you get that height, it's already permanent. So the Gemara said that a couple of memers, when is the machlaikas between Rav Yehuda and Chachamim? Is it only by a big sukkah, only by a small sukkah? And there's big nafkaminas. So take a look at Taisus, command like echad. The fourth Taisus on the page, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's actually the fifth Taisus on the page, command like echad, these are small Taisus in. So Taisus says, Reb Chaim bar Rabba tzrichatayma. There's no reason now for Reb Chaim bar Rabba. That's where we were up to. Take a look. A recap what Reb Chaim bar Rabba said. Says Reb Chaim bar Rabba, if you got it in the gemorah, approximately parallel to the places above it. The gemorah says, Reb Chaim bar Rabba, Alma machlekes she'edim machazekes zek they reishay v'ruba v'shachanai. Of machazekes yeser v'gei v'shachanai afilu mala esram k'shera. That the machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim, how tall the sukkah has to be, could be, what's the maximum height, that's only if we're talking about a sukkah that's tiny. Reishay v'ruba v'shachanai. 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim, a meter by meter, and it's 20 feet high, right? But if it's any bigger than that, then it's always kosher. It's good, right? So, which one? Taisa wants to know. The Gemara says, Dolek Echad. This opinion doesn't fit in with any of the three things we said till now. Because it can't be to do with seeing the schach. You don't see the schach even if it's bigger than 4 amos. The schach protecting you from the sun, that's even if it's 4 amos. What is this tiny? What's wrong with a sukkah that's that small? So it says Taisus, that small and that tall, I have to add. You can have a sukkah that's 7 on 7. We'll see. It's machlokes b'sham v'yisil. Do you need space for the table or not for the table? The question is, what's wrong with having a sukkah that's 1 meter wide and 20 feet high? Says Taisus, you need to give a reason for this. What would possibly be the problem with having a sukkah that's like that? This is not a house, this is already a chicken coop. Having a sukkah that looks like that, that's a chicken coop, that's not a house, that's not a dwelling place. Given the gebeah a katina, since it's very tall and very small, it's got a tiny footprint and it's very tall, that's a chicken coop. So, once it's bigger, than a meter. If it's 2 meters wide, that's already a room. That's already not just a chicken coop. Okay, that's how Taisa understands so we have now 4 pshatim in the Mishnah, why it can't be more than 20 feet high, either because it's a chicken coop, or it's because it's a diras kva, as opposed to a diras arai, it's a permanent dwelling place, and it's going to be temporary, or because you're not getting shade from the schach, you're getting protected from the walls, or because you don't see the schach, it's too high up, you don't see the schach, you don't remember that we sat in clouds of glory where we can't have mitzrayim. Says the Gemorah. So back in the Gemorah, so Bishlam, we're about halfway down on the page. I understand Reb Yeshia, he's arguing on the other two. Because he's giving a share, he gives a size and the width. They're discussing how wide it could be, and he said he's discussing something totally differently, right? Reb Yeshia says that what's the machlekes? So the second two opinions are how wide it is. Our arm is wide, 7 tvachim wide. But Reb Yeshia, let's read what Reb Yeshia says. Reb Yeshia says the machlekes in the Mishnah is only in a case where the walls don't reach the schach. The walls stop halfway. But if the walls go all the way to the schach, then there's no problem, because your eyes will follow the wall, you'll see the schach, and you'll remember that anya covered now. You remember the clouds of glory, because only if you're sitting in a place that's open and 100 meters above you, there's some type of covering. You don't even notice it's there. You don't see it. You don't notice. But once there's a wall, your eyes follow the wall, and you'll see the wall. Okay. So he's arguing the other opinion is it depends how wide it is. But what's the machlekes between those two opinions? Whether it could be 7 tvachim wide or 4 amos wide. So it says a Gemara. They're talking about area. He's not talking about area. He talks about whether the walls are reaching. These two last opinions, how wide it is, are we going to assume that they argue about the size of a kosher sukkah? Is that their machlekes? What is the proper size? One is of the opinion that the sukkah has to be 7 tefachim, and the other is of the opinion that the sukkah has to be 4 tefachim, 4 amos. Is that the machlekes, how big a sukkah could be? So Gemara says, "Lo, we can't say that." Everyone agrees, everybody knows, no one argues. A kosher sukkah has to be roishay v'rubai v'shachanai. It's got to be able to hold your head, your body, and your table. We said last week, Rashi explains, they used to eat in the sukkah lying down. That's how everyone used to eat. So average guy, I don't know, meter 70, meter 80, meter 90, whatever it is. So it's got to be able to, when he lies down, his head, his body, have to be in the sukkah. The legs can be out of the sukkah, but his head and his body have to be in the sukkah. He has to have enough space for a table to eat. And it's approximately half of a guy's body, whatever that is, 7 tvachim. I think the Gemara says later on that 7 tvachim, approximately a meter, right? Under a meter, 80 centimeters. So it says the Gemara, like, everyone agrees, both of these Amorai were of the opinion that it has to be machzekas, Raishav v'Shachanai. So what's the machlekes here? The mass of a machlekes Raishav v'Shachanai, of the Yisrael Raishav v'Shachanai dirakal kshera. One is of the opinion that anything above Raishav v'Shachanai is kosher. We're talking about the height here. So if it's exactly 7 tefachim, Raishav v'Shachanai, then 20 tefachim is going to be possible. But if it's bigger than Raishav v'Shachanai, it's 2 meters wide, it's 1.50 meters wide, everyone agrees it's kosher. Everyone agrees, it doesn't matter how tall it is, it's fine. Well, myself, the others of the opinion, the machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Chacham is between 7 tefachim and 4 amos. Then is a machlekes. If once the sukkah is bigger than 4 amos, it's bigger than 2 meters wide, then it's going to be kosher lekula alma. So that's the machlekes. In other words, the machlekes is, it's getting cold in here. The machlekes is, what is the dispute in the Mishnah? Are they only disputing how high a sukkah could be when it's exactly a meter wide, or even if it's bigger than that, till 2 meters wide? Okay, so it says the gemorah. If it's above 20 feet, it's possible. Brisa. Reb Yehuda says it's kosher, and 45 amma. 45 amma. Until 45 feet. Not sure, Mike. I think this is Girsa wrong. It says 45, 40 or 50 feet. I think what it says is 45 feet. Okay. So this Girsa says that the sukkah could be 45 feet tall, right? According to Reb Yehuda. Our Mishnah says, according to Reb Yehuda, anything above 20 is fine. There's no limit. The sky's the limit. There you go. This is where it comes from. The sky's the limit. It can be whatever you want. But this Bryce says, according to Reb Yehuda, you're limited. Even Reb Yehuda says you've only got to 45 feet. So Reb Yehuda says, Reb Yehuda, Ma'aseh B'Helin Yamalka. Story. He's going to go ahead and prove that he's right from a story that 20 feet is fine. It's a fascinating story. Listen to this. Ma'aseh B'Helin Yamalka. There was a Queen Helene. Belud. She was living at the time in Lud. Shahisa Sukkos. I don't know why the gemorah says where she lived, but she lived in Lud. She had a really tall sukkah, 20. She's the queen. She made a nice tall sukkah. The elders, the Jewish elders, used to go in. They visited the queen. I guess especially on Chag, mitzvah to go visit the queen. They went to visit her, and they never told her your sukkah's possible. They didn't say, "Hey, don't eat here. It's above 20 feet. It's not kosher." They kept quiet. So from here you can proceed. Here we see that above 20 feet is fine. I guess it was very uncommon to have a tall sukkah then, right? So they wanted to bring a proof that look, she had a tall sukkah, and no one said, "Oh, your sukkah's possible, your sukkah's not good," right? So here we see above 20 feet is good. They say back to Rabbi Yehuda, they argued with Rabbi Yehuda, said that's not a raya, Misham raya. You're going to bring a proof from a woman? Helena Malka, she was a queen, she wasn't the king, and she was potem in a sukkah. She doesn't have to eat in the sukkah at all. Mitzvahs don't have to eat women, I was about to say. Women don't have to eat in the sukkah. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. So what are they going to go make a macha? You're not eating in a kosher sukkah? She's not mechuyev in a sukkah at all. Amalahan. So Rabbi Yehuda said back to them, what do you mean? She had 7 sons. Okay, she's a girl, she's a woman, she's a feminine. She doesn't have to eat in the sukkah, but guess what? She had 7 sons. And they do have to eat in the sukkah. Not only that, but everything she did was al pi chachamim. She followed the rabbis. So what is going on over here? Why? So you can prove from here that a sukkah above 20 feet is kosher. Because she had a sukkah above 20 feet, and she followed the rabbis, and she had 7 sons who also needed a sukkah. The Gemara asks now, Lama lil misni v'aid? Would you have to come ahead and tell me that she did everything according to the rabbis? Just tell me she has 7 sons, and that's enough of a proof. Now we'll know, right? So Gemara answers. Hachi kamar. So Lama lil misni v'aid, this is what Rabbi Yehuda was saying. If you're going to tell me that Helene had 7 sons, but they were small, when this story happened, her kids were all little, her children were little, give it a shiver, since she had 7 sons. Oh, it has to be the case that one of the 7 was big enough that he doesn't need his mother anymore. That is the share required. That once a kid doesn't need his mother anymore, you got to be mechanech him. You got to teach him mitzvahs. Now you're going to tell me why? Let's say that age is 6 years old. If she's got 7 kids, one of them had to be 6 years old. I guess the gemorah could have said, look, she had triplets. She had 2 triplets. I don't know. But the Pasha says she had 7 kids. So one of them must have been 6. And a 6-year-old boy, you got to go ahead and be mechanech. You got to teach him how to do pizzas properly. So Gemara says, you're going to tell me, yeah, listen, that's only rabbinically, you got to teach your 6-year-old boy to sit in sukkah. You're going to tell me, she kept Torah, but she didn't listen to the rabbis. That's why Rabbi Yehuda comes to tell me that, guess what, she had 7 sons, and she listened to the rabbis. Even if you're going to tell me that they were small, they were under bar mitzvah, but since one of these 7 must have reached the age of chinuch, of education, therefore, and since she listened to the rabbis, therefore she would have to treat him and educate him. So the sukkah must be kosher. Otherwise, it's not proper chinuch. It's interesting, you see from here a principle, it's a big machlekes in other sugyas, but maybe you can bring a little bit of a rye from here. So when you mechanech a kid to do a mitzvah, right? You teach your kid, whatever it is, to put on tefillin. You teach your kid to put on tzitzis. It's got to be kosher tzitzis. It's not just a question of, okay, I gave him this baguette, I gave him the thing. It happened to be puzzle, but this 6-year-old boy doesn't know that it's missing strings. What does he know? He's learning mitzvahs. No. Part of the chinuch is he gets the kedusha, the sanctity, the holiness, the light of doing the mitzvah properly, and that is what's mechanech him. That brings him close to Hashem. So the fact that, the sukkah might have been 21 feet high. Okay, the kid's sitting in the sukkah, he's learning from it. He's getting the experience of sitting in a sukkah. No, it's got to be a kosher sukkah. Otherwise, it's not good chinuch. It's a fascinating machlekes. If chinuch has to be done properly with all the tanaim, all the rabbinical tanaim of how to be mechanech a kid. You see from here that, you can't be mechanech a kid sitting in a sukkah that's not kosher. He'll end up sitting in a sukkah that's not kosher, maybe, or he's not absorbing all the kedusha of sitting in a kosher sukkah. It's a fascinating sukkah. A lot of nafkaminas. If you have to blow a shofar for him, it's got to be a kosher shofar. Whatever you're doing for a kid, does it have to be like Hanukkah candles? Does it have to be in the right place? Well, okay, as a kid, just light it anyway. You see from here, you mechanech a kid, he's got to do it properly. Says the gemorah, this whole proof of Rabbi Yehuda from Heleni Amalka that the sukkah could be about 20 amas high, because she had a sukkah that was 30 amas high, right? That's only good. If according to the first opinion, the machlekes is she'ein tfanas megias l'schach. Why? Because women, a queen will sit in the sukkah, it's open. She wants to get some fresh air in, right? So she's sitting in a sukkah, and the walls don't reach the schach. That's fine, that makes sense. Mishum, says Gemara on the page, Mishum Avira. Right? If you're going to tell me the machlekes of the Chachamim is only talking about a sukkah ketana, it's only by a sukkah ketana is it going to be possible to have a tall sukkah. There's a queen sitting in a small sukkah. She's the queen. She's got this 20 feet high sukkah, and it's small. That makes no sense. Obviously, the sukkah was huge. She had all these rabbis coming to visit her. She had the whole, she was hosting. right? It's a queen sukkah. It wasn't a small sukkah. So what's the proof from this case? Again, Rabbi Yehuda is trying to prove that a sukkah above 20 feet high is kosher. Why? From the queen. But we said that this machlekes between Yehuda and Chachamim is only by a small sukkah. That's one way of learning it. All the machlekes is where the walls don't reach a schach. If the walls reach a schach, everyone agrees it's kosher. So the Gemara says, if the walls don't reach a schach, I understand. The queen sits in a sukkah where the walls don't reach a schach. She wants air, she wants the sunlight. It's more geschmack, a nice open sukkah. And then Rabbi Yehuda is going to say it's possible, you don't see the schach. Chacham says it's kosher. Right? But does a queen sit in a small sukkah? No. Queens don't sit in a small sukkah, so therefore it must have been a big sukkah, and therefore it's always kosher. According to everyone, it's going to be kosher. So Amar Rava said, Amar Rava Ada, this was a big sukkah, but there was rooms. There was little rooms inside. So not only was it, I guess, open on top, right? Or not for sure it's open on top, but it's made of little rooms. And therefore each room could have been less than Arba Amas. You're right, the whole thing was huge. But each room was small. Really, a queen sits in a sukkah made of little sections, little cubicles. You're right, she had a big sukkah. She had a huge sukkah. But there were certain parts of the sukkah where there was rooms, right? There's rooms, in certain parts of the sukkah rooms. Those rooms are not kosher. It had to be, she had private dwelling space in the sukkah. If in Cain, the rooms are not kosher. So what did the Rabbanan argue on Rabbi Yehuda? What do they hold? They said, look, she sat in the Ketanias, but the son sat in the big part. And in the big part of the sukkah, it's kosher. In the small part of the sukkah, it's not kosher. So why did she sit in the small part? Why did she make these little rooms? She wanted to be tzniistic, she wanted to be humble, she wanted to sit openly in front of everyone. So she made separate room for herself in the sukkah. All right. Okay. So since she, so let's just wrap up this up. Since she sat in the sukkah for tznius reasons, therefore the rabbis didn't tell her anything. It's better that she should be tzniusdik and sit in the small sukkah that's not kosher midrabanan, that she should sit in the big sukkah, I guess, that's not tzniusdik. They said, we're not going to tell her what to do. She's a woman. She doesn't need to sit in the sukkah. Therefore, she's sitting in the sukkah that's above 20 feet high. We're not going to tell her anything, even though it's a small kitaynies. But her sons, at least her sons, were sitting in the big sukkah, and that was all good. Rabbi Yehuda holds, but now Gaba v'Yasu, the children sat with her, so if it was good for her, it was good for them, and therefore, and even though the son sat with her, the Chacham still didn't make a machar, meaning that you see from here, the son sat with her in a small room in the sukkah. For tznius she was there, but her son sat with her, right? They didn't eat in a separate room. The sons were with her, and since the sons were mechuyev in the sukkah because someone must have been above the age of chinuch, and the rabbis didn't say anything to the sons or to her, therefore you can see from here a proof that sukkah could be above 20 feet high and it's still kosher. The rabbis kept their mouth quiet. Okay, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.